Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to preview Mikey Musumeci versus Kade Ruotolo for the ONE Championship. We are also going to preview the entire Polaris 29 card, or really the main card for Polaris 29. As always on your show, I'm your host, Maine, joined my co-host,
Miranda.
How you doing, Miranda?
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good.
For a second, I was like, are we saying the one thing right again? Yes, it is ONE Championship.
It is ONE Championship,
and
but I don't know. I do not know if it's for a belt this time.
It's not ONE FC. It's
No.
ONE Championship.
Yeah.
It is ONE 168, and
Yep.
It's for the lightweight submission grappling world championship.
So is this is Kade's belt?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's Kade's belt.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know it was actually for Kade's belt. Oh,
Yeah.
that's crazy. So,
And it's a co-main event.
who's the main event?
Main event is Jonathan Haggerty versus Superlek.
Oh, that's a good fight. It's a Thai fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a super fun fight. Haggerty's been looking great recently.
That's a
Superlek's been
bantamweight.
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be a really good main event. The whole card honestly looks a lot of fun. This is the one that's happening in Denver. This is the one that I flew out for last year.
Yeah, last year at some
May
point.
for my wife and I's birthday. We flew out to Denver to watch Mikey Musumeci and Kade and Ty. At that point, go in Denver. They've changed the rules a little bit. So it should be a ton of fun. Full disclosure, we're doing a back-to-back show this week, so we're in the same stuff. We have no additional news because it was all in last week's show.
And if anything happens in next week, it just happens.
Yeah, so we'll cover that on the following week's show. But I want to just do disclosure. We usually have a news section at the beginning of the show, but this is the first time in 350 something shows that we've ever had to do them back-to-back. But I'm actually in the woods for work for the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be literally
Maine
in the
doesn't
woods.
believe that the rest of us can run the show without him.
I absolutely believe that. No one has ever volunteered. And also thinking about it, I don't think any of you can run all this shit.
No, because I don't know how any of this shit works. I'd be like, hey, this is with Miranda.
I'm
we got one
in
video.
the woods. I'm like, what are we doing? Okay.
Now, we have one video, and that's it. If the sound sounds like shit, sorry about your luck this week.
And that is what I'm here for every week for the past 8 years. So no news this week because of that situation, but we do have a really fun match and a card to preview for Polaris. Polaris has a great set of cards and matchups that I'm really excited for. Post-ADCC is always fun. Ash Williams versus Diego Pato, Cole Abate versus Sam McNally, Jed Hugh versus Julian Espinosa. We have Taylor Hillshaw versus Jade Baker. We have Tainan Dalpra versus Max Lindblad in the gi, by the way. And we have Arya and Esfandmaz versus Felipe Andrew. And I'm going to mess up this gentleman's name. Momammed Antanayev versus Jay Rodriguez. It's going to be a good show. So, Miranda, let's kick right into it. Let's talk about the one that I want to talk about the most.
Cade
and Mikey. This is for Kade's belt. Kade had a phenomenal performance a couple of weeks ago on CGI. He won the $1 million tournament. He had, I'm still going to say, the best match that I have ever seen versus Andrew Tackett.
Yeah.
Go back and watch the match. If you haven't seen it, it is free on YouTube. Phenomenal match. It really shows off the pace that both guys can push. It shows off dynamic passing and movement. It's a great match. It really has all of the check boxes. If you want to get someone into grappling, be like, hey, this is the sport that I'm watching. It's a great match to watch. That was the semifinals match of the of the Craig Jones Invitational.
Oh.
That CGI always throws me off. That was the semifinals match of that under 80 kilogram tournament. The finals match was Levi Jones Leary versus Kade Ruotolo.
Yes, it was.
That match was 5 rounds. That match was much less exciting than the Andrew Tackett match, which is not hard to be less exciting than that match. Yeah. But it led to not a little controversy, but it was a close match. And I love that I keep saying it. The Craig Jones Invitational has open scoring, so you could see going into the rounds who was going to take it. Again, because it was a new event, we all weren't entirely sure how they scored. Is it MMA style scoring? Is it ADCC style scoring?
Some of the refs' decisions were a little
like the Luke Rockhold and Pat Downey was like a little. I'm not sure. We don't know exactly how the scoring of the event ran. So the open scoring was nice to have. Going into that match, it's basically a tale of. We're talking about this match because it is so relevant to the Mikey Musumeci match. You brought it up on last week's show that stylistically, Levi Jones Leary and Kade Ruotolo is a very similar matchup to Mikey Musumeci and Kade Ruotolo.
It is.
Aside from Mikey being about a weight class small, he's a little bit smaller than Kade, but he's not going to be actually like that significantly smaller than Kade. They're technically one weight class apart in one FC.
Mikey's ripped as hell.
Mikey also looks way like 10 pounds bigger than he looked before.
So jacked right now.
Yeah, I mean, he looks. They posted pictures. ONE FC is doing a great job, by the way, of promoting this matchup. They have cool infographics with like the last people both guys have faced. They have Mikey Musumeci's transformation from like February to March, April, May, and like to now, and like Mikey looks like he's at least 10 pounds bigger, and which is the biggest we've ever seen.
Which
Mikey
I mean,
Musumeci.
could be all pasta, but.
I mean, but
you never know.
I want pasta weight to look like that for me.
I know, right? I wish I could eat pasta and look like that.
You look at Mikey Musumeci with like a gi on or a shirt on. He looks this kind of nerdy, like small guy, and then you see him with like his shirt off, and you're like, oh, that's a world champion level athlete.
Well, he also trains for like a million hours a day.
Yeah, but like you look at him. He's one of the guys that has like the biggest contrast between like regular guy with a shirt on and like glasses, and then you see him like in promotional material, and you're like, oh, he has like an 8-pack, and he's just like astonishingly jacked.
Yeah.
The parallels for these two matches is stark, because Mikey Musumeci and Levi Jones Leary, whenever we bring up either one of their games, we talk about they both play a really, really heavy berimbolo game.
Yes.
And recently, we've seen Levi Jones Leary go more into the legs than ever before. Mikey Musumeci, one of the best leg lockers in the gi, and then very kind of quickly becoming a very, very dangerous leg locker in no-gi with all his one championship matches. Notably, didn't see him in the ADCC. He's declined 2 different times. He was going to have a match at the Craig Jones Invitational, but it never materialized. We weren't quite sure if that was due to one championship not agreeing.
Well, Craig had come out and said that it was supposed to be against...
Marcelo?
No, the MMA fighter, the Australian guy. You know,
Volkanovski?
Yeah.
That would have been badass.
That's what he said. That was the match that he swears it was supposed to be, and it didn't work out.
That would have been super fun. I don't think Mikey would have won that match, but it would have been super fun to watch.
I think that's what he said was supposed to be the match.
Okay.
And it could have been a contract issue with both UFC and with fucking ONE FC.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You're put your champion versus Sarge, like,
yeah.
Because they kind of do. I think for grappling matches, see, those are weird. Usually the UFC, at least their old contracts that I know about, you could do non-striking sports, and the UFC was fine with it as long as it wasn't like right before a matchup you had. They did have veto power for like if you were under contract for an upcoming bout, then they could pull you out of it. But if not, they were like pretty good with it, unless you were a champion and the champion contracts had like other things where they could like bar you from doing other things like that.
Well, and ONE FC is exclusive too, so you're also talking about getting Chaudhry to allow you to do it.
Yeah, which he did for Kade, but it was like, and there's kind of a thought of like maybe he didn't for Mikey because, pick your reason.
Yeah.
It was still pretty phenomenal they did it for Kade. It was also kind of cool for the Kade matchup that ONE Championship actually posted about Kade winning the tournament for CJI, which I thought was really unique because typically MMA promotions never post about other promotions, unless they're like feeders specifically. Something like ONE usually doesn't go post about other like organizations. So it was really cool to have them go, hey, he just went and won a big thing. And it was like a neat moment to go, hey, and give recognition.
But it's not really. But in all honesty, they're two different things. One is going to be maybe a yearly thing, and one is something that goes on all the time.
Yeah, it's awesome. I just appreciate that it showed that, hey, our champion went out to another organization and won this other thing, and he's going to fight Mikey coming up soon. You should watch that. Like most MMA promotions are not willing to do that. It was cool to see ONE Championship be willing to promote Kade and promote Mikey. Yeah. Through CJI, and it was like it's a neat thing that we in combat sports don't see very often in MMA. So it was neat. But talking back to the parallels of the game, like you picked up on it, this could potentially be kind of a boring match. Yeah,
because Kade could not pass Levi's guard.
Yeah,
I mean he could. There were times that he like backflipped over him and got to north-south, but then he never materialized anything from that position.
Right. And if you look at sort of how he passes in ONE FC, usually really heavy blast knee cuts and jumping. Like it's kind of how Kade and Ty, for a little less Ty, it's kind of how they like to pass. Do you think that will work versus Mikey Musumeci? And I think, like, I was thinking about it as you brought this point up, and I went, I don't know. And I think also Mikey's a much more heavy leg locker than Levi.
Than Levi is. And the only time we've really seen him get taken out, Mikey taken out recently at all, was Gabriel Souza.
And that was
4
years ago.
And he said he had COVID during that match.
And Flo wouldn't let him pull out. And then we saw him in the rematch just pretty easily choke Gabriel Souza. And it was like, yep, I'm done. Boom.
Yeah. So I don't see Kade being able to pass and or really get a hold of him very well.
Yeah, that's
I see Mikey just like grabbing one of his legs, and like he can try to do backflips and all kinds of shit to try to get out of it. He's just gonna fuck up his own shit.
Yeah. The thing is, I don't know.
And I don't think that Kade is going to see not the concerns, but the little maybe problems that he had in the finals match because he won it.
Yeah, versus
and
Levi.
Then fix those things before this match.
Well, we've also seen Kade in some interviews kind of talking about it as like a promotion, like a guard player versus a standing player thing. Like, and it seems to be.
Yeah, he said like I'm gonna pass him and sub him, and I was like, really, you gonna do that?
Here's the weird thing about this match, and kind of why it's so compelling is that thinking about this more, I thought initially that Kade was a much bigger grappler than Mikey, and in thinking about it, nope, they're only one weight class apart. Cade made 170 for this tournament, which I think Cade's going to have a 15-pound advantage on Mikey. But if there was any guy that really is not going to matter, we saw Mikey versus Muhammad Ali. We've seen Mikey versus Sif. Like, we've seen Mikey jump into Absolute. Didn't win Absolute, but he is not a guy that is scared of a guy being bigger because he's been at the lower weight classes his entire career. Like, he's been facing guys that were a little bit bigger than him most of his black belt career, and then even before his black belt career, like as a child, like he's a guy that's used to giving up 10 to 15 pounds for a lot of guys when he's training. And historically, Kaio, when he was with Kaio Terra, talks about like, yeah, we really didn't put him with a lot of guys that were like enormous because like that's a great way to get injured, which I like to hear coaches talk about, like protecting their athletes. But I don't think the size difference between Kade and Mikey, I think it's going to look pretty significant in the cage, but I don't actually think those 15 pounds are going to really play that much of a difference for like the way that Kade plays. Kade, because of his explosiveness of movement, because of the way he like does jumping knee cuts, he does backflips, he jumps off the cage. None of those are things that he's really leveraging his weight into to pass. Like, the way that he's passing isn't, like, grinding. He's not even, like, opening you up with a grinding style and then jumping past.
Yeah.
He's usually doing it from a mid or a long range for people that don't have as dynamic guards as Mikey. Mikey's a guy, I mean, I think the biggest match we can see that in is his match with Mateus Gabriel in one championship. Mikey plays a rangy, open guard that he's willing to go into either multiple on your back, go to Berimbolo, go crab ride, or go into the legs. Like go to the top side, like the Mikey lock on the shoulder. Look at the match he had with Gantenberg.
Yeah.
Where he just blew out every ligament in his hip and knee.
Yeah, he just went for everything.
And, look at the match at the Imanari where it's the back or Shinya out, or the match with, not Shinya, that was Kade. Mikey has a pretty standard way that he's going to attack and play. He can be the top player, but he's going to be the guard player here.
Yeah, the only real avenue is that because he can't immediately pull guard is the initial exchange to get Mikey to pull. Because he's going to give his leg. He has to give his leg for Kade to grab it so he can pull, right? Is something happen in that exchange? Is literally you jump a freaking Darce as dude tries to sit. And I don't know if you can. I don't think it's. But
I don't think you can stand in Darce Kade. I just think, especially early in a match, maybe he's dry, but he's just going to give you too much. If anyone could hold on to it, it'd be a guy like Mikey, but Mikey really isn't a power sub guy.
No, I'm not talking about him. I'm talking about Kade.
You think Kade jumps a Darce or something like that?
I think Kade has to sub him almost immediately to win. Because once he sits to his butt, it's his game.
Yeah. My other question...
But you can't pull guard, so they have to... He's
going to do the thing Mikey walks forward with his leg. If his leg, you take the leg down and then they're on the guard.
That's what I mean. If you can kind of jump something as before he... But I mean,
My thought is the way that one championship does their scoring is activity and catches.
yeah.
And we saw this recently in Danielle Kelly match versus My Sebastos.
Yeah.
It's by the amount of catches, like who catches us for these guys is going to be like, any sub, but usually a leg. And it's a legitimate sub that is putting pressure into whatever it is to break it or to damage it. The referee goes catch, and then that is what counts. And whoever, essentially, usually who has more catches that are better wins the match. If there are no catches, it's activity, it's top pressure, it's the MMA scoring.
Yeah. And maybe if it's a cage, and Kade can like put Mikey up against the wall in a cage, maybe then there's some stuff he can get off. But
even
then.
like with the match with Mateus Gabriel we saw for Kade, like he kind of put Mateus there and like he was like jumping knee cutting him, but Mateus Gabriel was doing a really good job like retaining in the cage, and Mikey has I think a ton more experience in the cage versus a guy like Mateus Gabriel. My thought is this goes I really don't. Both these guys are top level, and they're they're both world champions. This is literally an actual super fight between two champions in an organization, and it's like the true sense of the word. Both guys have the skills to sub. Like Kade has a phenomenal Darce game. He's super long. Him and his brother are both super long with the arm in. Darce, the Ruotolo team from the back, like great. They have good leg lockers. Like he beat Micah Galvao with a heel hook at ADCC, like in the championships of 2022. Like we know he has good leg locks. We've seen Mikey Musumeci finish heel hooks from rear naked chokes. Like these guys have the submission skills to be able to sub each other if they are put in the right spot. That being said, I don't think either one of these guys, I think Mikey is going to be aware of the pace that Kade is going to bring. He's also going to have Kennedy, Masayal, and Cobrinha probably in his corner. Kade is going to have his brother in his corner. Yeah. And probably Andre Galvao in his corner if they're in Denver. Both are going to go in knowing what the other guy's going to bring to the table.
He's been having Eric Paulson in his corner.
Oh, yeah.
That's who's been in his corner.
I remember that now.
Eric Paulson's been in his corner for his MMA fight, and then he was in his corner for CJI. Because
it wasn't Galvao. No, it was Galvao.
It was Galvao, too, but
Galvao
it was also Paulson. Because I kept on seeing Paulson. I was like, that's...
You trained it with Paulson for a little bit.
I was like, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Because he's just one of those... He's kind of like one of those old school guys that... Like
the oldest of schools.
Yeah, that just like appears all like kind of like Steven Seagal. Like all of a sudden he's just there.
Yeah, he's like, that's fucking Eric Paulson.
Yeah, I'm surprised we didn't see Steven Seagal in Vegas.
We saw him.
No, we
seen him before.
We saw him at 20 whatever the last
2019 I think. 2022 I think.
Yeah, 2022 we saw him, but we didn't see him this time.
Yeah.
At all, which is weird. Normally he appears.
He does. But I think the matchup for this is really interesting because Mikey is a good game planner, and he knows what Kade's going to bring. Kade, they don't seem as concerned with the game plan. Like, they know that the athletic talents and gifts and just the style of the Ruotolo Jiu-Jitsu sort of deals with a lot of that.
I think that's also somebody who they create their own game plan on their own, on what they want to do, as opposed to someone who creates a game plan on what their competitor is going to do.
Yeah. And Kyle seems very much like a coach-first kind of guy, where it's like his coaching staff and his team.
Who?
What'd I say? Mikey?
No, you said Kaio and Kaio's.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But when Mikey was with Kaio and now he's with Kennedy and he's with Sitzer Tong as well, he seems like a guy that he has some thoughts and game plans, but his team will also work together with him to game plan specifically for an opponent. Like Mikey is always bouncing between like pretty technical heavy coaches that are known to be good game planners and like specific athlete game planners versus like some guys are good team game planners. Like, oh, cool, our whole team does it this way and does this thing. Yeah. The guys that Mikey's with are all like, okay, I'm going to take this guy, my athlete who is good at this thing and game plan around this specific matchup in the coaching that he's had recently. Kade doesn't really seem to have that approach. It seems like, hey man, this is my hammer that I'm going to hit everyone with in matchup, and like that will just work because I am so overwhelming. Unless you are like the elite of the elite of the elite, you just can't stop me, which I think is a great strategy and approach. But I think Mikey, with being able to take a more kind of thoughtful approach and technical approach in the matchup, knows he has to get catches. I think Kade will be much more willing to jump for things.
Yeah.
But I think Mikey has phenomenal defense and counter defense. I think both guys probably have speed parallel. Like, we think about Kade as being like super fast, but Mikey's also really fast, but he also tends to be, he jumps around less. He's more fast in his hips.
Yeah. He's more methodical.
Yeah. And so it's a really interesting style matchup. It really comes down to, do you think Mikey from the bottom can attack enough of Kade's back and can attack enough on his legs to be able to rack up catches? Or do you think that top pressure and activity and kind of throwing knee cuts through the center and the middle that Kade has?
I think that Mikey has, and Mikey also has, I think, the ability to have, even if he gets like a bunch of knee cuts against him, maybe the first one works, maybe the second one he starts throwing offense off of it, and then by the second or third one, like, he's like rolling through, like, as you knee cut, he's coming after your leg and rolling.
He's not a guy you can hit with the same thing like 3 times.
Yeah,
that's a really good thought, and I think
he has the ability to, I mean, if they haven't already game planned over certain, specific things happening, I can see him, like, when he first came out, he was a little bit more like he was stuck on one thing, and if you couldn't get this one thing, it was like end
and
of the
he
world.
even talked about that in his interviews. Like, man, I get really tunnel visioned on one thing sometimes, and I can't kind of get off of that. I think he worked with his team and to like kind of get better about that in certain matchups.
Yeah. So I just think I think technically he can beat him.
Weirdly enough, I think one of 2 things happens. I think Mikey either gets more catches and gets a decision here, or Kade just throws up so much overwhelming offense that there are no catches, and Kade has just done more in the matchup and wins from top pressure and positioning and, like, not top pressure, but like activity in the matchup. I think that is sort of the 2. Watching, again, like I said earlier in the show, watching either guy sub wouldn't really surprise me. Both are phenomenal submission artists. Like, go look at their title runs. Like let's run through them. In one championship, Kade Ruotolo has beaten Shinya Aoki, Uli Kurlev, Mateus Gabriel, Tommy Lanker again, Francisco Lowe, and then subbed Blake Cooper in his first MMA fight. Mikey Musumeci has beat Masakazu Imanari, Kleber Souza, Gantamura, I can never pronounce his last name.
Bayandurian.
That was really good. Osamu Amurari, Jared Brooks, Shinya Aoki, and Gabriel Souza. Like, both have had phenomenal runs in ONE FC, and I think that they're setting up Mikey Musumeci to go against Tomoyuki Hashimoto, because Hashimoto just had a matchup, and that's another rematch that we saw in IBJJF Worlds 2018, I think, between Musumeci and Tomoyuki. Both have phenomenal tools. I just think this will be Mikey Musumeci knowing exactly what Kade is going to bring to the table, planning against it, and Kade being able to throw the kitchen sink at Mikey. But if he can't get any catches, I think Mikey's going to take this if he gets a single catch.
Yeah. It's wild how they've aged, both of them. Seriously. The pictures leading up to this match, both of them look like they have seen some shit.
Yeah. Look, combat sports is not nice to your body.
But, like, they both look like they aged like 20
But also,
years.
Mikey has that birthmark next to his eye
that
always makes it look like he just has a black eye, which is, like, for combat sports, is pretty badass.
Yeah.
They did pick an odd picture of Kade Ruotolo here where he has, like, laugh lines.
Yeah.
He has, like, almost like a beard in the picture.
It's so weird. I don't know.
Look, that's how I think the matchup is going to go. Miranda, what do you think? I am leaning towards Mikey. If he's able to get a single catch, I'm leaning Mikey. But I think if Kade is able to, like, stay out of Mikey's leg locks, then Kade can win on a decision activity. What do you think here? It is for Cade's title, and so you
I think it's
pick the champion.
I think it's similar. I think Mikey's gonna win, but I think Kade has the ability to stay out of his game, that he can do it, like you said. But I don't know if that's possible.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how.
I'm trying to think of who we have seen shut down either one of these guys.
Well, we just saw Kade not be able to pass Levi. He won, but he didn't pass him.
I think Levi's also bigger.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing is like
But he's not that much bigger.
Do you think those 15 pounds matter?
Not really.
Then so it's
because
like
I think
kind of a moot
Mikey's a
point.
better bowler than Levi is. I think they have the same game.
Yeah. Yeah, they do have a remarkably
They
similar
have a very
game.
very similar game.
Where both are going to sit, both are going to play to the bolo, play to the back. If needed, play. I think Mikey will play more into the legs if he wants to.
Yeah.
I think Mikey is probably a better rear naked choke finisher
Yeah.
than Levi, but it's close.
Yeah. But I think they're very similar, and I think Kade won that match on activity and going after him.
Yeah, and it was close.
Yeah. So I think, if anything, Mikey and his camp probably watched that match and was like, oh, we need to find a way to get him to engage.
Right.
And, like, find ways to create that engagement.
Yeah. And I think if Kade starts backing out of this match, potentially, for grappling for one championship, I don't know if they stand him up or not. I don't think they do. I think they make the top player engage like a grappling match. But I can see in this match Kade getting frustrated with Mikey's guard.
But Mikey will also butt scoot towards you.
Yeah.
Like he'll,
and that's what I think. It wouldn't surprise me to see Kade Ruotolo, given kind of how vocal he's been about the Levi match this week, get frustrated with Mikey's guard and start talking to the ref and being like kind of complaining about it. If he is unable to get by it.
But then he might get frustrated and try to do something like, stand on Mikey's legs, and whatever. What is that passing called?
Leg pin passing.
Yeah. Try to do that, and Mikey's just like, I got your leg now, and you know what I mean, and know how to capitalize off of that kind of engagement. Yeah,
like I mean, you deal with a world championship level guy that can take any little where you're planted there. I just think that.
I think you step on Mikey, and he might.
He might get your.
He might go after you. Yeah.
Yeah. I lean. The more I think about this match, really, I think had we not, leading up in the 2 months we've talked about this match, I've been going Kade the entire time. Seeing the Levi Jones Leary match and all the parallels between Mikey Musumeci and Levi Jones Leary, I kind of lean Mikey Musumeci here in this. I just think that he stylistically, it's something that the Ruotolo team is not going to be able to change their game that significantly to deal with in the next week or 2 weeks at this point, essentially, before the matchup.
Yeah.
So we both picked Mikey.
Yeah.
I think that's an upset.
I think when you I think the odds that they put out for the match is heavy Mikey too.
Really? I haven't seen the odds yet.
Yeah, so I saw them today.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
And I think they were heavy. They were heavy because people were kind of saying that was a big thing.
I didn't. I wish I would have seen the odds before we did this. But
why?
I just it's not a kind of talking point, another kind of thing to consider, because odds makers are getting much better at the grappling matches recently.
Well, I mean, it's.
Oh, that was as voted by you.
Well, let's look at the odds. Okay.
Regardless, so I think regardless, it'll be a fun matchup. It might not be like a super action-packed matchup, but I think it is awesome to finally have one championship putting two of their grappling, their undefeated grappling champions together. And then the other kind of my other thought here is, if Kade is going to go into MMA, it's not necessarily the worst to have Mikey as a 2-division champion, as an active grappler. That Mikey is he's dabbling with Muay Thai a little bit in Thailand or Singapore, but I don't think he's looking to make the transition over into striking sports.
No.
Whereas Kade is, and so if this is a handover of a title to Mikey from a promotional perspective, if Mikey takes that, I don't think one championship is super upset. They've never really built a division around Ruotolo. They've given him consistent matches that are good and fun matches. But Mikey is here to kind of stay as a grappler, and I think they're very willing to put Kade into the 155s for MMA, especially with that win over Blake Cooper.
Yeah.
So, from a promotional perspective, Mikey winning here wouldn't surprise me. I think regardless, if either wants the rematch after, it'd be a great match to have a rematch for. I think it could be maybe not the most exciting match, but I do lean Mikey here, and I do lean probably by catches. Same thing?
Yeah.
All right.
I agree.
So let's move on. Anything else on 1FC, Miranda?
Nope, that's it.
One championship. Jeez. Let's move on to
championship. We got that right once.
We've been getting it right more and more and more. So Let's talk about Polaris. Miranda, where do you want to start with? If you have a bunch of Polaris matches to cover, where do you want to start here?
We'll just start wherever you're at.
All right, let's start. ADCC silver medalist Jay Rodriguez takes on Momammed Antanayev. I think this is J-Rod.
Yeah, I think it's J-Rod.
Like, J-Rod has looked the best. Like, we've talked for years about Jay Rodriguez, ever since his brother was a guy. And then we saw that he had a younger brother that was a better wrestler and also looking to go the jiu-jitsu route. But some of the things that have always kind of plagued J-Rod are he's a slow starter and he's young and he didn't have a huge depth of like technical to pull from.
But the slow starter thing has seemingly went away.
Yeah, this last ADCC, he showed us, hey man, Dima fixed that problem apparently. And so I'm really curious if he's not. I mean, we've seen J-Rod get beaten by like Jacob Couch and by Jontas Gracie. We've seen Giancarlo Bodoni. We've seen that match twice now.
Yeah.
And it was close the second time.
I think he is used to a higher level of competition.
Yeah.
Though it says he's a regular training partner of the Notorious.
Because Momammed Antanayev is
he's
out of SBG.
Yeah.
With Conor McGregor and that whole
so
team.
I mean, he does see that kind of he might see some of that, but not the same level of grappling competition.
Not as B team. Like SBG Ireland is a good grappling team.
Yeah.
Like they put out the very good regional grapplers, but their gym is mostly focused on MMA.
Yeah.
B team is like one of the best jiu-jitsu comp gyms in the world.
Yes.
They're both brown belts, J-Rod and Momammed, but really that's one of those, like, it doesn't, the belt, you win, you get silver, which is the B team way, at ADCC. Brown belt's kind of in pretty big quotation marks there. I just think if you look at accolades alone of like what Jay Rodriguez has just done, and Momammed is mostly still like in the Ireland scene and the European scene on a more local level with no huge wins in major tournaments like trials or anything else. I think it'd be really kind of dumb to pick him just based on where Jay Rodriguez is at and where he is at right now.
Yeah.
But it's cool.
And I don't think Jay Rodriguez took any injuries at ADCC, or at least it didn't seem like he did.
No, he looked fine. But again, it's a rough tournament for a couple of days, but he's also young. He doesn't seem super injury prone. Kind of like his brother doesn't seem super injury prone.
They're more durable than
the Ryan brothers.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Jay Rodriguez here. I'm going to go by rear naked choke. That is what he likes.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me to have him like snap down, turn the corner, get behind, rolling back take, which is something we saw him use. Him and his brother use a lot more now. It's what Nick Rodriguez used to win CJI, was that jumping kind of rolling back take. I think him and his brother are both using that. Wouldn't surprise me to see that here on Polaris as well. Miranda, any of your thoughts for the matchup?
No, I think Jay's going to win. I don't know how, but I believe he will.
Next matchup, let's talk about, we're here. Arya Esfandmaz versus Felipe Andrew. We've seen Arya on Polaris a bunch over the years on Grapple Fest. Felipe Andrew just almost won $1 million at CJI. This is actually a rematch from like, when was it?
It was a long time ago.
I think.
6 years ago, remember?
Yeah, 6 or 7 years ago. A long time ago. I think Felipe Andrew won this by like Botinha or...
Head and arm, right?
Head and arm choke, I think is what it was.
It was head and arm choke.
For me, this is a pretty cut and dry. You have Felipe Andrew at the top. Or if your name is not really Adam Wardzinski or Nick Rodriguez, like not a lot of guys are taking out Felipe Andrew right now. Gi and Nogi, but
he showed that it doesn't even matter. Like, the guy can be huge. The guy can be giant.
Yeah, oh my God.
And he's like, I have a triangle.
Felipe Andrew,
I'm going to throw this triangle at you. And I mean...
Almost triangle Daniel Kirklevitt.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kirklevitt. A bunch of times, and Kirklevitt just decided at Craig Jones Invitational, no.
Nah, it doesn't exist.
And we all were just screaming in the stands like, jiu-jitsu doesn't work. Because as we all got like really sad, having devoted a huge portion of our adult life to training that sport, and watching Kirklevitt just go, no.
Yeah, we're like, dude, can we do that? Is that something that we just...
Does that work? Did no one,
Yeah,
did no one teach us that?
Did we just not realize that if you just stood up in triangles, you get out of
They
them?
just get you out, and then you try in the gym, and you're like, all right, I'm not a human fridge.
Yeah.
But Felipe Andrew has one of the best triangles in the world. Look at the triangle in 2020 versus Keenan. Look at his triangle over Hulk. Those are always two of the big touch points whenever I talk about Felipe Andrew's game that I kind of go back to, because they're the exact same triangle that everyone knows he does, and he's still able to do it. He has a super nice hand trap. I think he'll probably pull here. I do think that we're probably going to see him finish either a triangle, because he was throwing a ton of those up at CJI, or we're going to see him get back to the back again like he has historically done in like more of his IBJJF tournament wins. But I do think this is probably going to be Felipe Andrew, especially because they have history before. And Arya has not been as active on the international competitive scene as Felipe has. I think Felipe is also a few years younger.
I'm still looking, and I mean, I got a lot of matches to go through. I'm like,
are you Felipe Andrew?
Yeah, I picked the wrong one to start with. Like, I should have picked Arya and not Felipe Andrew, because I started going through and I was like, holy shit, I'm still going through matches and I haven't even gotten through it.
Andrew's been super. I think his IBJJF picture is still a picture when he's like 13. For years, Felipe Andrew had like a really, really old IBJJF picture for his registration when he was like a child. And it was always funny, like, why is he using that picture still? Because he just never updated it. I think his AJP picture, but I think it's his IBJJF picture. Again, this is, for me, it's an easy pick. Whenever the guys have history, Arya has been less active on the international scene. Felipe has still been super active on the international scene.
Keskatami, he lost by, or
Kadegatame. Had an arm choke.
In 2019 at the European Open.
Okay, so the European Championship. So like 6 years ago.
Yeah.
6 years ago. Essentially, or Jesus.
Yeah.
So
yes.
I just think this is Felipe Andrew, probably by sub. Miranda, do you have a thought? I think triangle, because
I think triangle, because he was throwing up triangles like it was the end of the
everyone.
world. And I mean, he goes after your arm too, so it could be armbar, but it's gonna
armbar triangle.
It's gonna be set up from a triangle.
Yeah. Again, he just seems to be really leaning. He's always leaned heavy into that, but it just seems like he was not obstinate with it, but he was confident.
Yeah, and it didn't really matter how big you were either. He was like, big guy,
Kirklevitt,
triangle. Yeah, little guy, triangle. You know, even Nicky Rod, triangle.
He tried. Never heard it. It was like, nope, I've seen what you can do. You're a wizard with that. Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of how I think this one goes as well. Felipe Andrew, again, in the rematch, again, is a fun match. We've seen Arya a ton on Grapplefest and Polaris, so it's cool to see him back, but I just think it's a rough matchup for him again here. Next one, we have Tainan Dalpra versus Max Lindblad in the gi. I love that Polaris occasionally puts him back in the gi. They're like, hey guys, I know the sport on the professional scene is mostly no gi, but I still occasionally like seeing a high-level gi match. And again, if you're going to throw a guy that really does the gi and is exciting in the gi, like Mika or like Tainan, we talk about him, really kind of should be two-time world champion, but he got beat by Jansen Gomez, first year at Black, and then he got DQ'd for IBJJF rule page illegal technique 19, the backside entry versus Francisco Lowe.
That's some bullshit.
Rules, but inconsistent rules. He's taking on Max Lindblad. We've seen Max Lindblad. We don't talk about him a ton. Super prolific European competitor. He was on the European team squads.
Yeah, in ADXC.
Yeah, we've seen him. Who is against the ADXC? I forget.
Recently it was Pedro Ramallo.
Yeah, he lost that match.
Yeah,
but it was still a fun match in the gi, and we enjoyed watching his match in the gi. But this is super tough. Yeah. You're taking on Tainan Dalpra, and you're not Jansen Gomez, and you're not an IBJJF rulebook. And Polaris is going to let him do the entry that he wants to do for that backside leg entry.
Yeah.
I really think this is Tainan Dalpra being able to showcase what he can do in the gi.
Yeah.
Like we said every time we talk about Tainan, like there's nobody at the weight that really contends with him most of the time. Like the two losses we see him have are ones like from a DQ for a rule that his team knew. But it was like inconsistently enforced.
It's one of those rules that half the time they get it, half the time no
less
one
than
cares.
half the time. It's not a common DQ.
And
Francisco Lowe kind of sells it.
Yeah, he kind of sold the money, you know, even though his knee was already fucked up before it got there.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is. That was the only way he was going to win against Tainan anyway. So, But anyway.
So, yeah, I go Tainan here. I wish I could have more, like, thought process, but it's just Dalpra's passing, his takedown game. Like, every time we see Dalpra, it's just more folds and more, like, nuance of, like, wow, he is getting better and better and better. We got something against J-Rod recently in no-gi.
And in the gi, his control, his ability to pass and control you, and not allow you to really have any space to do anything.
Yeah.
He's
super dynamic
remarkable.
in the passing as well. Like we see him do outside passing, gator roll passing, long step passing, like all of it. And he changed the passing together better than any grappler in the world in the gi.
Yeah.
In a way that is truly kind of like beautiful to watch. Every time you see it, you're like, wow, you are.
His gator roll is amazing.
His grip on the pant and then the top sleeve, and then he just runs through. And it's one of those things where you see it and you're like, you make that look way easier than it actually is. And he'll combine it with like a long step pass sometimes too, and a knee push pass. Like, it's phenomenal. Again, I hope, the best version of Max Lindblad shows up, but I don't think that Jansen Gomez wins the rematch.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm
so
going to pick Tainan Dalpra over anyone in the world in the gi right now.
And it's a 15-minute gi match too.
Yeah.
So it means
it may be a little slower, but
Tainan's going to get some time to warm up in the event.
It will be at the pace that Tainan wants to work, because in the gi, you work at the pace that Tainan wants to work at. Yeah. And once he gets going, it is a freight train, and very, very few people can ever stop him. So that's that matchup. Do you think Tainan? I think Tainan probably takes up a rear naked choke.
Yeah.
Gets the back, because that's where he kind of been favoring. He'll get to the mount. He'll take the back.
Yeah.
I'm curious if this is going to be... if they're going to do this as rounds with like they score 5-5-5 in the rounds, or if they're actually going to have points in this one. I think they probably will do the open scoring for like the round.
I think it's
5 minute, 5 minute, 5 minute.
I think the super fights are the 5 minute, 5 minute, 5
okay.
minute.
Yeah. They do move around occasionally, but
I think there's one for the brackets. I think the brackets get points.
Okay.
And I think the super fights
for the GPs.
And the super fights are the ones that get the three periods with the scoring, like when they say red corner, blue corner, or whatever.
So this is a phenomenal matchup. I love to see Tainan. I love to see him in the gi. I love to see him showcased in the gi. It's really cool, and again, we get a chance to see Max Lindblad again. We also have coming back after a long layoff. When is the last time we've seen Cole Abate? We have Cole Abate versus Sam MaNally.
He did like some open. He did an IBJJF Open somewhere.
Was it after he got his black belt, right?
In California. No, in Cali he did.
Okay, so after he got his black belt,
but it wasn't a major. It was something.
Okay.
And it was after the alleged leg break.
Okay. Yeah, so allegedly, Pato broke Cole Abate's foot.
Yeah.
Or leg in some sort of leg lock at AOJ like a year ago or something?
Yeah, something
like a while ago. And we haven't seen Cole Abate at all.
Yeah, we didn't see him at ADCC. We haven't seen him.
Didn't get invited. Wouldn't be surprising if he didn't get invited again, because he didn't place, he didn't medal, he didn't move past the first round, I don't think, in 2022.
He's been doing a lot.
After he won trials.
He's been doing a lot with them opening a kids' school with AOJ.
Yeah.
So that could be also part of what's going on. But I don't.
He takes on Sam MaNally.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be. I don't know if this is gi or not. Actually, it doesn't actually have it listed here. The picture looks like both of them in a gi, so I think this might actually be another gi match. They bring both Tainan and Cole over in the gi. Wouldn't surprise me. Sam MaNally, I think, is a guy that does both, but historically we cover most of his matches as no-gi matches. This will really be kind of I think Cole takes this. Sam is absolutely former trials winner, is no slouch. Has a win over Gary Tonin.
Yeah.
But I am hesitant because I don't know where Cole's at. But I don't think the Mendez brothers are willing to put him into matches they think he will lose.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to put him in a bad match.
Like, it's nothing against Sam MaNally. It's more of those, like, your first match back. The Mendez brothers are very controlling in the way that they manage their athletes' careers. And in good reason. Their athletes, go on to do phenomenal things.
Yeah.
I just think that if I knew nothing else, if I didn't know Sam MaNally's game at all, I don't think they'd put Cole in a match coming back off an injury that would let him like have a chance for failure.
Yeah, and I almost would think that maybe this is the gi because that would put less. But they can't. Can they heel hook in the gi? In Polaris?
Ooh, I don't remember. They might be able to actually.
Because Polaris might be one of those that are like, fuck it, we can toe hold and heel hook in the gi.
Was it Polaris?
It's one of them that does it.
It is one of them. I forget which one it is.
One of them lets it be wild.
Which one it was.
So we don't know.
It's
but
funny because we only cover heel hooks on the gi like once or twice a year. And
besides the local promotion.
we got the local one when you can do it. You ref a match and it's like it's legal this time. But yeah, I'm gonna go Cole here again. I think we haven't seen much from Samson's trials. We haven't seen much since Cole since his leg got broken. I just think stylistically, like Cole's on the rise.
Allegedly. Yeah, we don't know much. We don't know.
The AOJ camp is pretty quiet most of the time. Yeah. Also Felipe Andrew now is at AOJ.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about that in the match with Arya.
Yeah, we forgot about that. Him and his woman went over.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because that was the other female that was in that picture with him.
Oh, I didn't realize there was someone else in the back.
Yeah.
I just saw Felipe Andrew.
It was Felipe Andrew and his.
I thought it was Guy in that picture.
It was.
Was it 3 of them?
It was 3 people in the
I
picture.
thought it was just 2. Okay.
No.
I just saw Felipe and Guy. I was like, cool. He's at AOJ now. So yeah, there's actually a lot of guys from AOJ on this card. Interestingly enough, so
they must have all went together.
Yeah, that would make sense if you're gonna bring your whole camp, bring your coach out there.
Dude, there's multiple Felipe Andrews.
Yeah,
and there's one that's super religious. I just went to it and it was all religious.
Not
stuff.
not quite the
and
right
I was
guy.
like, not the one I was looking for.
Again, I just think Cole's passing when we saw him looked really good. His guard play off his back looked really good. His sweep can looked really good.
Yeah, Leticia Cardoza.
Okay, you saw Cardoza move over as well.
Is with Felipe Andrew.
Yep.
Yeah, and they both switched over.
So I think that I'm going to take Cole Abate here. But again, MaNally has upset before. Depending on how Cole looks post-injury, could upset again. Next one, we have one that I am amped for. We have Ash Williams versus Diego Pato. Ash Williams, I forgot who took out Ash at ADCC this year. Do you remember?
It was in trials.
No, he was in there because I talked to one of his guys from his gym.
Oh, there we go.
Pato. This is rematch. Okay.
Oh shit.
Jesus Christ.
Uh-oh. Well, Pato already took him out a couple weeks ago.
Yep.
Oh, that's kind of.
He did he?
Why would they do that?
Did he choke him? Now it's killing me because I'm not remembering how this match actually played out in the first round or first round.
It's
because second round was Pato and Krellinston where Pato hit him with that really really exciting knee bar because Ethan Krellinston had gotten past Ethan Thomas in the first round, and then people are screaming at their radios right now, and I always appreciate the angry messages of like, it's this guy. Like, I know I've looked as soon as the show ended, we immediately looked it up most of the time, but I always appreciate the feedback. Even without knowing how he submitted him, this is a rematch a couple weeks after. This is Pato. Like they just matched up. Pato just beat him 2 weeks ago. It's
it is the way it is, unfortunately.
Is the result even up yet?
No, it's not up
Really?
yet.
It's not even up yet? That's crazy.
No, I don't see it.
Can you pull it up in Flow, possibly?
No,
in Flow Arena?
Oh, man.
Just mute.
Oh, Flow Arena.
Yeah, Flow Arena will have the result with the match being directly clickable in it. But while you do that, I'll move on. We also on this card have Jed Hugh versus Julian Espinosa. Julian Espinosa is the guy that we saw on the finishers card a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, I was there for the never-ending freaking card.
That was the one that went to like
that
1
was
a.m.
the one that matches started at like 6, and then it was like 1 a.m. in the morning, and matches are still going on.
Yeah.
Not a good look. But.
So Julian is smaller. Jed Hugh bounces between... I think Jed did like under 99 at trials or something like that, but he is now wasn't the 77 kilogram division, and now is moving into the 66 kilogram division.
Score 6-0.
Oh, he didn't submit it. He pointed him.
6-0.
Oh, really? Okay.
It is still up. It's in Flow Arena.
Okay. So yeah, again, that's back to the Pato and Ash Williams match. Again, I think Pato just took silver. He took out Ash in the first round. I think the game plan for Pato, especially with the Mendes brothers in his corner, again, Ash's hometown, and Ash is undefeated at Polaris, but Pato has beaten Dante, who beat Giancarlo Bodoni,
Who beat Michael Galvao.
Beat Mike Galvao. Like, man, like, Pato's looking phenomenal recently.
Though, I mean, Pato took a lot of damage from Tainan.
Take a lot of damage from Kainan, and then also got choked by Baby Shark.
Yeah.
At the end there, so I think it would be a very exciting match.
Yeah.
Ash absolutely has the tools to deal with Pato, but I think in a rematch so close and in the Mendes brothers camp, they're going to come up with a brand new game plan to deal with that. Again, Ash has great game planners and great camp at drag there.
We don't know if it's in the gi or if it's not in the gi. We don't know about any of these matches.
I assume this is no gi. I know Ash will occasionally throw on the gi, but I'm pretty sure it's...
So Ash doesn't do the gi.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he does the gi. I don't think he competes in the gi. Actually, no. There's a comment that is like that all of these are in the gi actually, because they're both. It's two pictures of them in the gi.
That's the pictures are normally what I go by. If it's in the gi, then that changes things slightly.
Not really,
but it kind of creates a different air about.
Yeah, it's not an immediate rematch gi to no gi. It's a rematch in the gi. So Felipe and Arya, I think, is actually in the gi as well. But I think the first match was in the gi at the European Open, so that doesn't change our thought process on that at all.
Okay.
So again, I'm gonna go with Pato here. I think Pato's game looks a little leg lock. It looks a little less leg lock heavy in the gi, but I think the scoring opportunities that he used in ADCC are still gonna be there in Polaris, and he's still gonna be able to play a points game on Ash Williams. Don't think he gets the sub on Williams, depending on how much injury he took. But Ash, again, if Pato's a little slower or has had a rough recovery from ADCC, can absolutely keep his undefeated streak alive here. Any other kind of closing thoughts on that one?
Nope.
Jed Hugh and Julian Espinosa, back to that one. We were impressed with Julian Espinosa. In the finisher format, it's much different than the Polaris format here. But also with Jed Hugh down all the way, like, we haven't seen Jed Hugh this small in a long time.
Yeah.
I don't actually know if we've covered Jed Hugh ever this small. I think maybe at the beginning.
So Jed Hugh got taken out by, is it Mateusz Szczęsny at 77? Because Mateusz, and that was 77 kilograms.
Yeah.
And this was,
66.
So is this at 66?
I think he's going down to 66 for this one.
Moved towards title extension at 66 and 70 kilos, but it says and 70 kilos.
I think he's moving towards the title of both of them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I think this is like I think this will be a big cut for Hugh. You said Espinosa is already on the smaller side of 66 as it kind of is.
Yeah.
This is actually a really weird one because I was really impressed with Espinosa at finishers, but I've repeatedly been impressed with Hugh at Polaris.
Minus the footlock immediately.
Minus the footlock that he got broken. Mateusz Szczęsny broke his foot in 8 seconds.
Yeah.
In the grossest footlock I've seen in a very long time.
And I don't think Julian has that sort of...
That snap break.
That snap breaking power. So I think it'll be an interesting match.
This should be super close, honestly.
Yeah.
I do lean Jed here, but again, it really... I think that he knows how to use his size in a way that might be able to slow Julian down, because we saw sometimes Julian kind of get a little...
If he doesn't have a really shitty cut.
Yeah, if he has a shitty cut, this is absolutely Julian can take this just on the shitty cut, because again, that's a big... I swear to God, Jed Hugh did like under 99 at one point.
But I think when he does under 99, he's still on the smaller side.
I think he's like 180 something, which makes sense if you're 77, yeah. But again, that 140 cut, like we've seen...
No, it does not make sense, because 77 kilograms is 168.
Yeah,
so if you're 180,
it's 10 pounds.
Yeah.
But also 180 to 145 is 35 pounds.
Well, and for MMA, that's different. MMA, that happens, but that's...
Grappling doesn't happen as much. So This would be a fun one. I think this would be, for me, a nice benchmarking match of like, where's Julian Espinosa, where's Jed Hugh, especially at this weight class. I think I'm gonna lean Hugh here, but having Julian upset wouldn't really surprise me that much either.
And then Julian's also been put against Keith Krikorian in the middle of September for Place of Peace.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one coming up.
Or Invitational, maybe.
Yeah, Place of Peace Invitational, which is a tournament name I can never say correctly.
Yeah, it's like a Philly-based.
Yeah,
kind of hard to find.
I've always wanted to go up there for that. So those are all the matches that I have on Polaris. Miranda, any kind of closing thoughts on any of these?
No, not really.
So this should be a great main event. I love the Polaris is bringing back the gi and no gi.
And it's on UFC Fight Pass, and it'll be probably in the middle of the afternoon, which will be fun.
Oh, yeah, these 11 o'clock cards are phenomenal.
They're fun because they're like afternoon jiu-jitsu.
Literally, this Polaris is one of the reasons I keep Fight Pass, and every time I see a Polaris card, I'm like, that's worth like that. They put on a card every couple months, and I think Fight Pass is like $15 or whatever a month.
Yeah.
I pay like the whole year for it, and I'm like, yeah, I'll pay $30. Essentially, this is my Polaris, and occasionally there's other grappling cards I
like
watch
Fury
on it.
is normally on it.
Fury's on it, Quintet's on it sometimes, EBI's on it, Combat Jiu-Jitsu's on it. There's other events that happen on it, but if it were just Polaris and I'll pay $30 for a card, essentially, I'm like, it's worth it, because Polaris cards are universally, I think, some of the most consistent top quality cards that we get.
Yeah, they're fun.
Like, very rarely to have a Polaris card. It's like, it's okay. Like, usually they're like, we do end of the year shows. Usually there's like one or two Polaris cards. Like last year, both the men's GP and the women's GP were at the top of our cards of the year.
And the other thing is, Polaris is also good that if somebody falls out, like in the next 2 weeks, if somebody falls out, they'll get some like heavy hitter in last minute, and it'll be like completely
the Polaris seems to take care of their athletes in a really good way, and I do like that their replacement matchups are usually like, all right, maybe it's not like the same level, but it's usually like, okay, it's a name guy, it's a good replacement, it's a matchup that I'm interested in for different reasons.
Yeah.
They do a really good job of that. And so, again, can't wait to watch Polaris. Would love to make it to one of their events live one day. It was great talking with some of the Europeans live at ADCC or at CGI, one of the two. At CGI in the line, and we sat in the merch line for an hour, talked to some of the guys from Ash's camp.
Oh, did you?
So it was cool.
Nice.
They were great folk, and it was great to talk to them about kind of Ash's camp and the training. And it was very, very nice. So I feel very bad about picking against Ash in the Pato matchup. But again, it should be a phenomenal event. Polaris always puts on great events.
It's Pato.
What'd I say?
No, I said it's Pato.
Oh yes,
like
but it's Pato. It's like Baby Shark or Pato. Flip a coin, man. It's tough. Like Pato's subbing everyone.
Unless you're going against like Tainan.
Unless he's an absolute, and then it's like the small people never win absolute. Like they're my people.
I mean, every once in a
can't
while,
win.
but not.
They don't. They don't. Lachlan is as close as we got, and he was still a 77er.
Yeah.
Okay, pick 166er that's made at the podium on ADCC. Oh wait, but then we did have Adele.
Yeah.
Daddy went, 55 kilos. Here it's at. I won the absolute championship. That's phenomenal. The women can do it occasionally.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen in the men's because we have guys like Kynan and Cyborg and Declan Moody taking my people out. So I'm not bitter that I'm a tiny small man. Miranda, anything else you got? That's all I got for this week. Do you have anything else you going on?
No, I think that's it for right now.
All right. So as always in the show, I'm your host, Maine, to my co-host,
Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Miranda. See you on the mat where it is. Stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.